Good day, everyone. We are the Group 4 and we will be tackling the digital self, self, and others in cyberspace. Before we start, here are the topics to be tackled throughout the presentation. First is the definition of digital self, and the latter part is the self and others in cyberspace. Let's start with the first part. What is digital self? Digital self is the persona you use when you are online. Some people maintain one or more online identities that are distinct from their real-world selves. Others have a single online self that's more or less than the same as the one that they inhabit in the real world. In simple words, digital self is a self in the online world or digital space. The self that you portray online can be either near to your real self or a totally different persona. Our online self depends on how we want to present ourselves or how we want to be perceived by others. Next is the self and others in cyberspace. This will further discuss the self in the digital world.
Online identity and self in cyberspace. I, me, myself, and my user ID. Online identity. Online identity is a sum of your characteristics and interactions. Because you interact differently with each website you visit, each of those websites will have different pictures of who you are and what you do. Sometimes the different representations of who you are referred to as partial identities because none of them has the full and true picture of who you are. With the rise of social identity and providers such as Facebook, Twitter, Google, and many others, people have many more options to choose from which service to use in managing their identities beyond what they want to be as a person. And also, in those different websites, we can be different individual as who we are in real life because it is free to change our identity without knowing by other people, and we can do whatever we want in expressing the person that we really want to be. According to the Internet Society Org 2011, your online identity is not the same as your real-world identity because the characteristic you present online differ from the characteristic you present in the physical world. Our real-world identity can be changed in our online identity because in our online life, we can be more and can show the things that we can't do in real life. And for some, through the different social media accounts, they can express the feelings that they want and can share opinions with regards to the current issue around. The online world serves as a gateway to show the world who we want to be that we can in the real life that we are into. How to build your online identity. Every website that you interact with will collect its own version of who you are based on the information that you have shared. It is up to you how will you represent yourself closely as who you are and what you do in real life to create a representation far from your real life. Sa mga sinishare na information sa social media, doon nabubuo ang online identity natin at doon na rin tayo nakikilala ng ibang tao, kahit pa ito ay iba sa totoong pagkatao na meron tayo. Pwede nating mabago ang pagkatao na meron tayo sa totoong buhay sa pamamagitan ng mga social media sites, ngunit hindi natin mababago ang pagkataong mayroon tayo sa totoong buhay dahil yun ay ang tao kung sino at ano talaga tayo.
Number 2. Selective self-presentation and impression management. The process of strategically concealing or revealing personal information in order to influence others' perception. It means that a person may or may not reveal personal information that can be used in influencing others' perception on a certain matter. Can change depending on who we are interacting with or what personal information we need to present to be acceptable to others. So it means that we are selecting our self-presentation in order to suit in a certain situation when we tend to interact with other people for them to be accepted by others. A person is not showing who he or she really is, but instead pretending to be someone else just to be friends with others who he or she wanted to belong with. Like for example, that other individual tend to fake themselves in front of other people para masabing belong sila sa certain group and hindi sila ma-judge ng pinakikisamahan nila. It is done by many para makiuso at makibagay sa antas na kanilang ginagalawan, although they are not really who they are while with them. Kumbaga, fake lang yung personality na pinapakita niya para makasabay at matanggap ng iba. So, we have two main types of self-presentation. The first one is pro-social self-presentation. Entails behavior that present a person as a role model and make a person more likable and attractive. In pro-social self-presentation, it shows how to be a role model that make him or her more likable by others that uplift each and everyone's benefit. For example, a supervisor may call on her employees to uphold high standard for business ethics, model that behavior in her own actions, and compliment others when they exemplify those standards. Last one is the self-serving self-presentation. Entails behavior that present a person as highly skilled, willing to challenge others, and someone not to be messed with. In self-serving self-presentation, it shows how competitive a certain individual is, that he or she is willing to challenge others and prove them that he or she is the best, that somehow create shame to others. For example, a supervisor may publicly take credit for the accomplishment of others or publicly critique an employee who failed to meet a particular standard. In summary, pro-social strategies are aimed at benefiting others, while self-serving strategies benefit the self at the expense of others.
Impact of online interactions on the self. When interacting with other people, we automatically make inferences about them without even being consciously aware of it. Iniisip natin kung ano ang meaning ng facial expressions ng kausap natin, ano ang intention nila, and so on. These suggest less emotional involvement and cognitive effort than interacting with human partners. Nagpapakita lamang ito na social interactions are so demanding and it requires more emotional involvement and cognitive effort. It is clear that virtual interaction are much more easier because it does not require cognitive or emotional involvement. Online interactions and social media platforms are also beneficial because it provides opportunities for increased identity development. According to the research of Valenzuela et al., through these platforms, young users report increased self-esteem and general well-being because of the positive feedbacks in their social networking sites made by their friends. However, online interactions cannot reveal our true feelings and can decrease people's happiness. It is easier for us to hide our true feelings behind our Facebook posts or tweets. And using emoticons can be manipulated, thus, people will not know our true feelings, as well as seeing negative posts can ruin our mood, and there are people who develops jealousy if they see posts about achievements of their social media friends that will lead them to comparing themselves. It clearly shows that social media and online interaction has positive and negative impacts on ourselves. The positive impacts of social media and online interactions on the self are: first, social media sites inform and empower individuals to change themselves and their communities. There are many vloggers nowadays and their contents can give information and entertainment to online users. as well as social media can be used as a tool to help the community in terms of tourism. By creating promotional pages, they can promote their places on different social networking sites. And sometimes, artists also hold online concerts to help the people. Next is increase self-esteem when receiving many likes and shares. And last is boost one's moral and feeling of self-worth. When our posts on social media gain many positive reactions and comments, we are happy because our brain releases dopamine, which is happy hormone, and this encourages us to improve and do better. Next, let's move on to the negative impacts of social media and online interactions on the self. First, extensive online engagement is correlated with personality and brain disorders like ADHD or attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder. People with ADHD may have trouble paying attention and controlling impulsive behavior or may be overly active. Another disorder is narcissistic personality disorder. It is characterized by a long term of exaggerated feeling of self-importance. Ang mga taong may roong disorder na ito ay gusto nila palagi ng atensyon ng iba. They crave for admiration and struggles with empathy. Struggles with empathy means nahihirapan silang intindihin ang feeling ng ibang tao. Next is low self-esteem due to the risk of being exposed to cyberbullying and cyberpornography, and more occupied in giving attention to social media than keeping their customs and practices. Socially active in social media is not bad as long as you know how to handle yourself from being a mindful online user, and you know how to discipline yourself and control yourself from visiting inappropriate or prohibited sites. We should also practice time management in using social medias because too much of everything is bad.
The extended self in digital world. As originally conceived, the extended self is composed of a person's mind, body, physical possessions, family, friends, and affiliation groups. The digital world opens a host of new means for self-extension, using new consumptions objects to reach a vastly broader audience. It is one way of incorporating persons, places, and things into identity. Since it was formulated in 1988, the way we absorb and introduce ourselves has been significantly changed by many technological changes. With the advent of the internet, social media, online games, virtual worlds, and other digital activities, together with the devices through which participation in such activities takes place, there is a greatly expanded set of ways in which we may represent ourselves to others. Ang ini-imply nitong extended self in digital world is every time we use different social media platforms, yung identity natin as tao or human being in real life is napoportray or kumbaga ito yung nagiging alternative character natin sa online world. So, there are major changes that are taking place due to each digital phenomenon. The first of 5 areas of change in a digital world is the dematerialization of many of our possessions. Nowadays, things are disappearing right before our eyes. Information, photos, videos, music, and even some data are now largely invisible and immaterial. Immaterial meaning yung mga bagay na meron tayo or physical objects ay nawawala na ng substance or kumbaga nalalaos na and hindi na siya relevant sa panahon ngayon dahil na nga sa modernization sa technology. One example of this is yung sa music. It is one of the dematerialized artifacts na meron tayo ngayon. Instead na collection ng records or CDs or DVD inside our homes na pwede nating ayusin or i-rearrange every time na gusto natin, this music era has come to reside inside our digital storage devices or on different servers around the online world. There are several high-quality digital music streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music that gives anyone access to millions of songs, podcasts, and videos from artists all over the world. Another one is books. You can read anything like novels, poems, short stories with different genre even without buying a copy from a bookstore dahil pwede na nga itong ma-download as PDF through surfing lang sa web. The second major change is re-embodiment, breakout of the visual, online, leading to new constructions. Digital media such as video games, virtual worlds, blogs, web pages, internet dating sites, and mobile phone technologies are rapidly mediating our culture. As new media users continually recreate and reshape their online identities, the representations of ourselves as formed by digital technologies become increasingly complex, dynamic, and unidentified. So, yung paggamit natin ng avatar is yun yung nagiging representation ng sarili natin and ito yung gumagalaw and nagkakaroon ng interaction doon sa online world. Designing an avatar, naming it, learning to operate it, and becoming comfortable with it, we gradually not only become re-embodied but increasingly identify as our avatar. However, we are not just placed into an alternate avatar body. We have choices in selecting, modifying, and accessorizing this representation of self. The next major change is sharing. Uploading, downloading, provide free access to information through web surfing. In our current lifestyle, communication is playing a vital role to enrich the human bondage in their personal relations, academics, business, and even international interactions. Since the creation of different social media platforms, over 2 million people around the world use social media every day. Many people express their ideas on social media sites like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. On this way, we all have this communication even if we are miles apart. Kasi yung iba, they tend to share things beyond the limitations, not knowing na their privacy is at risk, like they talk about their personal life or private information in the details. So, alam ko naman na lahat tayo dito ay aware and disciplined enough to know things na pwedeng i-post online and yung mga hindi. Better use these platforms to share knowledge from reliable sources, hindi yung mga fake news na nagsisilabasan, and to raise awareness na din sa youth about different issues in our country. So, ayun, please be careful on what you share and post online because nowadays, there are many threats inside the social media world that can affect your life. The next one is co-construction of self. Our digital involvement is social in nature. Our blogs invite comments, social media thrive on interaction, and while cell phones may be decreasingly used for telephone calls and emails, they are used for text messaging, taking photos and videos, and geolocating to connect with others. These others help in co-constructing our individual and joint extended self. There are two needed extended self updates due to co-construction of self. One is affirmation seeking and building aggregate extended self. Our friends also help to co-construct and reaffirm each other's sense of self through their postings, taggings, and comments. We have that some friends na when we share something online, change profile picture, or even posted a photo on Instagram, they will give positive comments or compliments and support that provides us with confidence to extend the self in new direction. The last major change is distributed memory. According to Beck, non-digital objects that form a part of the extended self are often able to provide a sense of past through their association with events and people in our lives like souvenirs, photographs, records, books, collections, and even letters. However, in a digital world, there is a set of devices and technologies for recording and archiving our memories. Example of these are computer, laptops, phone contact list, calendars, files, or even calculators. Masasabi natin na these things are digital archive na madali nating ma-access and searchable din siya and securely backed up. Through this, mas mapapadali yung paghanap natin sa mga past activities na ginawa natin which are reproduced digitally.
So, number 5, boundaries of the online self. Good boundaries are important for our healthy relationships, but when it comes to our online lives, we rarely think to create clear-cut borders. Personally, you don't want to give out private information to the world, and professionally, you don't want to compromise your credibility and reputation. With this being said, boundaries of the online self are like our guidelines or rules that we create, especially when going online, to identify a reasonable and a safer way for other people to behave towards a specific situation. When we talk about our boundaries of the online self, it is important for us to set up our boundaries, especially when going online. The purpose of setting boundaries to our online self is this will ensure to us our own safety and our own privacy, while also this will instill to us a respectful and an appropriate interaction, especially when going online. So there are six boundaries we can follow when we wish to go online. Number one is stick to safer sites. So why do we need to stick to safer sites? We all know that not all sites are safe, and this can lead us to wrong information and especially the fake news. So we need to be very careful when choosing a site. So we just stick to sites that we think are trusted and sites that we are familiar of. Number two is guard your passwords. I know we all have passwords because we use this to protect our own personal information. It is important for us to guard our passwords because this will reduce the risk of identity theft and, as I said earlier, to help keep safe our personal data and personal information safe. Number three is be choosy about our online friends. This is important when setting up our own boundaries because being choosy with our friends isn't really a bad thing. In a matter of fact, we need to be picky with our friends, especially when going online, because it shows that we have standards about who we want to be around with, and also this will ensure to us a healthy relationship, especially in our digital self. Number four is remember that anything you put online or post on a site is there forever, even if you try to delete it. With this, it is easy for us, especially teenagers, to post things that sometimes we regret. This is brought to us by our strong emotions. So with all this being said, we need to remember the saying, that think before you click, because this will help lessen regretting our post. Number five is don't be mean or embarrass other people online. We all know that being mean and embarrassing people is really a bad thing to do. If we are in the same position of the people we are embarrassing, what would we feel? With this, we should treat others the way we would like to be treated. Lastly is limit what we share. It is crucial for us to limit our posts. This is simply because to protect our own personal information, and also limiting our posts will ensure to us our safety because not all can be trusted, especially when going online. So this is the end of our report. We hope you understand our simple discussion, and we hope you learn something new. So once again, we are the group number 4 reporting the digital self. Thank you.